have a very special guest today who we're going to introduce to you in just a minute. Boy, I tell you, I'm so proud of our PathLight Belize staff. As the pandemic has forced all of us to go digital and do events like this on Zoom, we found really strategic ways that actually has been beneficial. Our teacher training program, for example, has been able to connect with more teachers in more remote areas than they have in the past, and even more cost-effective and efficient way. Our sponsorship program, we found ways through WhatsApp and Zoom and other platforms to connect with each of our students on a daily basis and to continue our spiritual formation and character development efforts. And it's actually helped us to kind of codify that and digitize all of that. And it's been excellent. COVID also forced us to accelerate some key aspects of our 10-year strategy. And one of those was to hire our very first full-time Belizean executive director. Now, I tried to hire Adele Katsum about 2 years ago, and the timing just wasn't right. But thankfully, she came on board at that time as a strategic consultant, and she was instrumental in helping us to meet with some of the government officials, to meet with key business leaders, and to meet with some of the international NGO agencies. And that was so strategic. And thankfully, Adele agreed to join our team just a couple of months ago. She and I, since we'd had the opportunity to work together and the staff had already grown to know her and to respect her and appreciate and love her, it was such a natural transition. And we are so blessed to have Adele on our team. And so I want to welcome Adele to this. Hi, Adele.
Thank you, Roger. Well, as Roger said, I've been working alongside him for the last 2 years. And during that time, I really and truly fell in love with PathLight. For me, there were two big things that sold me on the importance of having an organization like PathLight in Belize. And those two things were, first, the fact that PathLight has come alongside the government of Belize and is helping us as Belizeans achieve our national goal of having a quality education for each and every child in this country. And the second thing was that it touched me personally. On a personal level, I know that I couldn't be here today. I could not have had the level of education that I have today if there weren't people like you out there and in my own country to help, because I was able to get to where I am through scholarships and through the generosity of people who willingly supported the children of Belize. And I now pass over to Irv, who will be introducing Dr. Zabaneh.
And welcome, Dr. Zabaneh. We are very delighted to have you join us in our very first PathLight Speaker Series. And the topic today is reimagining education in Belize. And you are supremely qualified for this role for many reasons, including your PhD in applied economics with a focus with advanced thinking and degrees in education and learning. And of course, as the Minister of State in Belize in the Ministry of Education, you are well qualified to have impact. In your book, you have a number of recommendations. And in your recommendation set, I'm going to focus on primary and tertiary education. 1, reducing the number of subjects. 2, reducing homework. 3, training teachers at subject level. 4, introducing personalized learning and leadership. 5, using the curriculum framework developed by the International Bureau of Education and UNESCO. 6, reforming the teacher training program. And 7, engaging in a national consultation with stakeholders. Let me start with the very first one, reducing the number of subjects. What's happening in our educational system right now and the kinds of educational reform you're thinking about?
In the spirit of sustainable human development, we analyzed the education system and brought in tools from economics. So that there's a subfield of economics and education called the economics of education. As you know, unfortunately, graduates from the primary sector and from the secondary levels has been dismal, the performance of our students. And not just in the dimension of examinations, but also in other important social skills that they should have had, critical thinking skills, very limited. Employers have problems with graduates, and so do the tertiary institutions when they get to that level. So by cutting back on the number of subjects, I am arguing that we will begin to see an increase in the output and the outcomes from the education system.
How do we train our students to have job relevance going forward in an economy that has shifted significantly to the use of technology?
One, we have to deal with teacher training and reforming the teacher training programs so that teachers are better equipped. And I know that you all have been focusing quite a bit on that, which is fantastic.
By the way, Dr. Zabaneh, I know you've started the Teacher Learning Institute.
This is an important institute because it will have many important roles. One of them, for example, will be to standardize, to give accreditation to teacher training. There's not a coherent set of standards on what that would entail and how it would translate into a certain number of credit hours that you would gain. So that's one of the things the Teacher Learning Institute is looking at now.
I love your thinking around free education and mandatory education at the secondary level and where that discussion is internally.
When we talk about free education, we're talking about the ability of the government to be able to deliver at a macro level. And that requires then macro analysis of what has been occurring and where we are with our economy. We believe that in the first instance, once we can move out of this depression, economic depression that we're in, then we can start to address putting more resources into education so that we can fulfill that promise that we made to the people for free education up to high school, up to the end of the 4 years.
If we're having this conversation 3 years from now, what would you look back on as success?
3 years from now, I would hope that we have addressed the issue of the IT vets, that we're far more utilizing our IT vets. We have a curriculum that is optimizing learning at school, and that would look like somewhere around 8 subjects, that more students are able to access education, and that we are focusing not on teaching students to pass exams, but on preparing them for the real world in Belize.
Well, Dr. Zabaneh, thank you. Thank you so very much we're deeply honored that you would take the time to have this very, very important conversation with us.
Well, yes, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to, first of all, commend you and all of your team on what you have already been doing. It's significant. You are focused on precisely those very important areas: teacher training and expanding the opportunities for children, for students who are most restricted by what we have.
Dr. Zabaneh, thank you.